Home and away spoilers. What has John done to upset Irene? Next week on Home and Away in the UK. As Irene's friends help her settle back into the Bay. Why does she want nothing to do with John? Irene's return to Summer Bay after 7 months in rehab has been anything but plain sailing so far. And next week her worry about being home looks set to threaten her most cherished friendship. Concerned after hearing that Irene had turned down an invite to Harper and Tane's wedding, Leah and John had paid a surprise visit to Irene at the rehab center last week. Irene explained that she wasn't ready to make any promises that she couldn't keep whilst her recovery was still ongoing. But John and Leah felt there was more to it. John phoned Irene that evening to apologize in case they'd upset her, with Irene finally revealing that she was scared. But of what, she didn't say. This prompted a further visit the next day, which irked Irene somewhat, but Irene eventually confided in John that there were too many painful memories back at home, and being around the people who saw her at her worst might tempt her to drink again. Promising to support her, John and Leah convinced Irene to return home with them that very day. But after first suffering a panic attack as they drove into town, Irene then proceeded to put off going back to the beach house for as long as possible. Irene later confided in Leah and Marilyn, admitting that the lack of the structured schedule of the rehab center had left her feeling lost. The steady rhythm of daily activities had given her something to hold onto. It provided reassurance, kept her accountable, and was the one thing standing between her and relapse. I knew where I was supposed to be every minute of the day, she told them. I had that routine for 133 days. And now I don't have it. It is such a jolt to the system. Next week, Dana arrives home late from work to find Irene sitting alone in the dark, clearly struggling. Irene opens up about how disoriented she feels, and Dana, wanting to lift her spirits, suggests they spend the next morning together. What Dana didn't expect was to be dragged into a power walk, as she does her best to keep pace with Irene. The two happen to run into Leah and Marilyn, who were on their way to the beach house with breakfast in tow. Leah's phone buzzes. It's John, anxious that he hasn't been able to get through to Irene, but Irene brushes off his concern without hesitation. Irene perks up when Leah and Marilyn offer to help her build a new routine to keep her days full. The plan includes morning walks, yoga, meditation, and regular tea sessions. Tea and talk to stand in for her therapy sessions. As the women start dividing up the new schedule, Marilyn suggests including John in one of the activities, but Irene quickly dismisses the idea. He's not really into yoga, and there's no way he'd keep up on a power walk. Before anyone can object, Irene heads off to put the kettle on, making a swift exit from the conversation. Dana, Leah and Marilyn are confused. Why won't Irene let John help? When Dana later brings the subject up, Irene forcefully tells her that they're not bringing John into it. I mean it, Irene states. I don't want you talking to him about me, or anything that goes on in this house. You got it, not a word. As Dana heads to her shift at the surf club, a worried John is waiting for any scrap of news. He's clearly desperate, his concern written all over his face. But Dana's torn. She knows how much John cares, but she's also bound by Irene's wishes. Ultimately, she keeps her promise, but manages to let slip that Irene has specifically stated she doesn't want John knowing anything. John is stunned. He can't make sense of Irene's cold shoulder and asks Dana if she has any idea what's going on. She admits she's just as in the dark as he is. Back at the house, Dana gently tells Irene that John sends his love. It clearly hits a nerve as Irene's walls start to crack. The next morning, Dana decides the only way forward is to get John and Irene in the same room together, and so invites John over, who is oblivious to the fact he's walking into an ambush. Irene is furious, and whilst John offers to leave, he really would like the opportunity to talk things out. Leah soon arrives for their planned tea session, and whilst Leah does her best to create small talk, Irene's patience is beginning to unravel. Suddenly, Irene loses it, and unleashes on John everything she'd been bottling up. "You're making it worse," she yells at him, as she explains that every time she looks at him, all she can think about is all the lies she told about the booze. and in particular her falling down the stairs. "You are a reminder of every mistake I have ever made," she concludes, as she begins to break down and excuses herself. Heartbroken, John makes the painful decision to take a step back. If giving her breathing room is the only way he can support his best friend, then he'll do it. As Irene later emerges to apologize, John tells her that he's heading off to the city for a couple of weeks to check in on son Jet, who's come down with a nasty flu. John later confides to Leah that he made it up, the truth being that he just couldn't bear Irene knowing that he was leaving because of her. Now that John stepped away, for now, will that give Irene the space she needs to finally start healing? Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more movie spoilers next week. Goodbye and see you again.